Welcome to part 2 of my project car. So I think I went further than I initially intended. I kind of started investigating and it never really stopped. Somewhere in the middle of this assembly, I figured it'd be better to just strip the entire car to really judge the damage to it. Much better than constantly finding new problems. Just having the front seats out really shows how bad the floor is. So out with the rear sofa as well. The fabric was already splitting everywhere. Removing the sound deadening was so incredibly tedious. It's good that you tend to forget how much work some things have been. Starting to look a bit naked, but let's keep going. Out with the dash and find even more rust behind that. Off with the trunk, which might be the only rust-free panel on this car. Did you spot this beautiful repair? Welded in with just a few dots. Also notice how the left side here looks, not like a huge hole. Well, it was all filler and some kind of seam sealer. You might notice some holes are getting worse. That's because I keep finding plaster that I smash out. I don't want thick cakes of filler. Time for the engine bay. With the engine out, I could also remove the front subframe and put the front of the body up on stands. The engine bay seemed mostly alright from what's visible, but there's a few problem areas. The little engine and the older axle, now resting behind the car. I sold these to make sure someone else could put them to use, as I had no plans of reusing them, and they both kinda worked. I also found this cut-off belt behind the panel. Interesting solution. The pile of scrap isn't as big as I expected. This is about half of it, not counting panels, dash, doors, and so on, as those will get reused. So with the car fully on stands, I start going through from back to front, trying to find every little thing that needs to be fixed. The floor is real fun. If you shine a light under the car, you can see it from inside the car. It's basically an inverted sky with stars from all the pinholes where light gets through. Definitely gets worse the further forward you go, but it's all peppered with rust. Here's the so-called inspection tool of choice. I really didn't do much more than tap to break through here. The backseat area has fared pretty well, but there are some severe rust in front of the wheel wells I have to look further into. It's basically this exact spot on both sides. The floor is rusted away completely, and what you're seeing is something from the bottom of the car. While searching around, I managed to find this solid cake of filler on the right side. There's also a sizable rust hole at the back corner of the door, all the way through the body. On the left side of the car, there's plenty of rust on the body as well. Chunks of filler started falling off with some careful taps of the hammer. Front of the car, there's rust along the entire seam between the radiator mount panels and the body itself. Not to mention the rust holes in the front beam. There's some minor window frame rust, hopefully it's not worse than it looks. But let's take a look at the trunk again. This area is going to take a lot of work. There's a lot of panel seams in here. And they're all rusted to varying degrees on both sides of the car. Not to mention that the entire lower part of the taillight was just filler. Then we have this absolutely butchered panel, probably from some old speaker installation. Hey, at least it's not rusted. I tried to isolate part of the garage when grinding and sanding on the car, but that dust gets everywhere no matter what you do. So now we're here. In about a week, I went from a sort of working car to a shell. What an improvement. Time well spent. Obviously, with the amount of damage to the car, there's no reason to do a full-on stock restoration, so I might as well do something fun with it. Stay tuned for the next part, and thanks for watching. Goodbye.